How are you?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, Seth, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take too long. I'm sorry for this. I had a question over here.
Totally fine. More than happy
Yeah,
to help.
yeah. This is for my class report. Hold on a second. I have the questions here. Okay, here it is. So, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Nice Saturday.
Yeah, we're gonna have a Halloween party here, and this is the first time we're organizing this thing, so I don't have any idea about this, but we're trying to do our best.
Oh, I'm sure it'll be great.
Okay, so as I talked to you, I mentioned to you, this is for my class, and as I am part of the internship in the RVDC, I have to interview a member of the RVDC. And there are some questions that I want to ask you.
Sure.
Okay, so we're gonna start with your field. I mean, what you do. So, would you tell me a little bit about, your position there in the RVDC and also your current role and responsibilities?
Sure. So as I'm sure you know, I'm one of the two project managers, and kind of what I do is when we get new interns working on projects, they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. Obviously because they're new interns. So my role is to help lead and guide them along the projects, make sure they get off on the right foot, and also they stay on the right foot. Because sometimes people tend to drift off if we're not there guiding them through it. I'll just kind of help them with the strategy, how to get the data, like what data they should be looking for. Just because when you're first doing it, it can be a little confusing. A lot of it just knowing what to look for just happens to come from experience. So I help them on the teams with that. Some of my responsibilities that kind of go along with all that is I'm responsible to make sure that the teams are doing the correct work and also doing it within the time frame that they're supposed to be to make sure that they're not falling behind or anything like that. I'm also responsible for making sure that the final deliverable is to the correct standard. So both the PowerPoint as well as the actual physical write-up. So I edit those with all my teams at the end of the semester.
Okay, I got it. Thanks so much. And would you tell me a little bit about the career path that you took in order to get to the current position, to your current position?
Yeah, I don't think I'd say career path because I'm still a student. So, but the way I got into where I am, I first signed up just to be a normal intern for the RBDC. I did one project. I did an advanced project as a research specialist, and that was on flywheel energy storage. So that was a fun one. And then I actually left for like almost a year, and I came back to do another project because I had some extra time during the semester. So I signed up for a basic project, and it was just myself and one other guy. So there's only two of us on that particular project. And I guess what happened is at the end, towards the end, Haley and Will reached out to me saying that they really liked my work. They were impressed with what I was doing, and that they had a spot opening up to be a project manager. And they wanted
Okay.
to know if I wanted to do it. And I said yes. So here I am.
Thanks for sharing that with me. Great.
Yeah.
Um, um, okay, so now that you mentioned that you're, still studying and stuff, so do you think that it would be a higher impact once you graduate from school? It would be a higher impact on what you're doing now?
Like, will the RBDC have high impact on what I do in the future?
Yeah, or in the industry, on the research industry.
Yeah, so I kind of wanted to get into consulting eventually. I actually just got a job offer, and in the interview, um, they were asking me a bunch of like analytical questions and such like that, and I was able to answer them well because of my experience at the RBDC. So it's already had a big impact on my future career. And then going forward, I also like want to eventually start my own company and so on and so forth. So knowing how to do analysis and a feasibility study and stuff will also have a very big impact with that. So I'd say, yeah, it's definitely been and will be very impactful.
Great. Um, um, any advice or suggestions for being successful in the industry? Based on your experience, what would be your suggestions or advice for being successful?
Yeah, so I'd say it kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say it's like industry specific because my industry experience is pretty minimal right now, but I'd say that the things that I feel like made me successful and that I see make other interns successful would be the first one would be to just get the work done. Uh, we usually sometimes have to like kind of prod interns to kind of get going, and the ones that just start up and just do it tend to be the ones with the better projects, and they stand out at the end. Also, the interns who over communicate with their project manager are definitely, and they're always the ones that are at the top of my list, and I see tend to go places. Um, so like, because sometimes we have problems with a junior analyst coming to the project manager saying, "Hey, I had this problem come up 4 days ago. Can you help me fix it?" It's like, "Oh, you should have come over here 4 days ago." So I'd say avoiding situations like that and always making sure your manager knows exactly what's going on would be helpful. I feel like it'd be helpful in any industry. Kind of one of the tricky parts with being a manager is knowing what on earth the people you're over are up to, and it can make it difficult to work with. But if they're making that effort to make it easy on you, then you stand out.
Let me
And I'd
see.
say the last one would be to just always go above and beyond what is expected of you. So like I think one of the big reasons that Will and Haley reached out to me to be a project manager was I was always like communicating with Haley. I was also just doing the work. I was also going above and beyond. So like at the end, we were doing a feasibility study for a client, and I took the time. Probably took me like 15, 20 hours, but I built a custom spreadsheet calculator for the client from scratch.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
I put in like their logo, make sure all the colors matched, made it real easy. Step one, two, three, four. I like highlighted the cells he needed to change for his assumptions. So doing stuff like that, um, just making it easy, not necessarily waiting for people to tell you what you need. What I think makes people stand out. So
Thanks. Great
yeah,
advice. I appreciate it.
no worries.
Okay. Well, and based on your knowledge about the RBDC and the understanding of how the company works, how is the company organized? About the services that it offers, products, maybe the size, the mission, the business model, etc.
Yeah, so the RBDC is actually set up as a nonprofit. So we work very closely with BOU Idaho, but we're a separate entity. So we're not officially part of the school. We are completely separate. Um, and kind of we have the business department, the research and business portion of it. We also do some agricultural business research. We did have a computer section. I think they just shut that down because it wasn't making money though. So the total number of like people who work for the RBDC, I think is probably maybe around like 15, 20. But then you add in the interns, and then that's like usually about 50 or so a semester, give or take.
I
So I'd say
see.
total a semester is like 70 people would be my guess. I don't really know a whole lot about the other departments. I've only briefly talked to one or two people in there. So our mission though would be to So kind of let me so to explain it. There's this kind of this weird, you know what a paradox is? Like
Mhm.
what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing. So there's this weird paradox in business that in order to get a job, you need experience. In order to get experience, you need a job. So
Mhm.
it's like how on earth do you get experience or a job, right? So the
Yeah.
RPC's mission is to break that cycle. And the way we do that is we just let interns come in and take on these big projects from paying clients, big responsibilities, and then that gets someone to put on a resume. So now they got the experience, now they can go get a job. So we have our basic internship program. All you got to do basically is write your name down, and you're in. Literally don't need to know anything. And then we have our advanced. So we do interview people for those ones. So it's a little bit more competitive, but we still try and keep that as open as possible for as many people who want to try and get in. Because the role of the company isn't to be selective and make it a prestigious internship, it's to make it an available internship for people to get solid, real life, outside of the classroom experience. So when you go into interviews and they ask you about something, you can say, "Oh, I have a real good life, real experience of that." So that's what we're all about.
Thanks. Thanks so much. Okay. And well, I know you mentioned, well, you gave me some advices about what to do and what to not. But here's a question. Okay. What are some of the challenges, specific challenges that someone in your position might find?
Well, I think it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. I'd say the biggest, I mean, all my challenges come from either the interns or the clients. So either the clients want to change the scope or they're not happy with how stuff's moving along or so forth. And I have to resolve that. That's not the intern's responsibility. Or the other half of it would be the interns aren't doing their work. Team member X is not communicating with his team. He's kind of gone rogue for the last 2 weeks or so. Or the interns are going way off the path that we initially set out for them. So, what was the question? How I deal with those, or just what challenges there were?
Just the challenges.
Challenges. Okay. Yeah. So it's either from the clients or the or the. I guess the other one would be a third one would be like where to get data, because sometimes we run into these problems of like we're trying to get certain data and it's like impossible to find. Even like calling people, it's classified or something, and they just won't give it to us. So we have to find like workarounds of like different data we could use that would give us the same result, or how to analyze the data to make it the best, have the best impact for the client. So I'd
I
say it comes from those two things: working with the data, clients or the interns.
Okay, thank you. And how do you manage, your time? How do you balance your time? I mean, work, family, church, or and also if you have to have to make sometimes some sort of sacrifices in order to to work and not being at home or something.
Yeah. So the biggest thing I use is Google Calendar. It makes it a lot easier to manage everything when it's all kind of displayed there for me. And then it's kind of tricky because I do have a lot going on, so I try to always block stuff out to make sure that I don't end up getting two things at the same time. Another thing I do is I make the interns schedule appointments with me. So like if there's like, hey Seth, when can I meet? I was like, well, look at my calendar and then just set something and we'll make it work. Because it just gets too crazy when I'm trying to schedule it myself. So let's see.
I
I'd say
see.
also like you're saying with sacrifice, I sacrifice a lot of my time. So normally like business hours are like 8 to 5, but I still work with interns. I've had meetings with them at like 10, 11 o'clock at night sometimes, just to
I
make
see.
sure projects get done on time. So, I mean, I prefer not to, but in the end, sometimes you just kind of have to do that. So, yeah, so I'd say it's like I use Google Calendar. to make sure everything lines up. I know what I'm doing and where I'm doing it. And then I guess the second big one would just be I keep myself available for as much as I can during the week, and then kind of the weekend is like my family time.
Okay, thank you. The two last questions.
Yep.
The question goes like this. An intern. How does this? What an intern shouldn't do, or yeah, or what an intern does in order to not be. I don't know if it's qualified or he didn't like. I didn't really pass the intern program. What an intern shouldn't be doing,
Okay.
or what you do in order to do not pass the internship program successfully.
Yeah, so I think we're a little bit different than other companies to start with because we don't necessarily have positions to hire interns at the end of the internship. The only position we have available for that is project manager, but that's only when a position opens up. So for the most part, like passing it, I would say that's just like having a good project, delivered to the client at the end. I'd say that would qualify you as passing. The way people don't pass would be a couple main things. One would be when they just don't do the work. So they don't want to do the phone calls. They don't want to collect the data. That's usually where people get caught up. And so at the end, they only have like 20 data points when they should have had like 400 or something like that. So the biggest one is they just don't do the work. The second one is that they try and hide stuff from their project manager. So they'll lie or say that they're further along than they are. And then we always find out because we say, okay, great, let's look at your data. And then it's like a tenth of what you told us it was. So they either don't do it, they don't do it and lie about it, or the other one is that they wait. They don't keep their project manager updated on what's going on and the issues they're running into.
I
So,
see.
and I guess the fourth one, just kind of a smaller one, is they just don't ask enough questions or they don't review the training material enough because we put a lot of work into like these videos and stuff for you guys to look at, and they're really helpful. Like an example, I had an intern. One of the projects I'm working on right now, I just sat down with them last week actually, and they were doing their calls. They weren't lying to me. They were doing all the work, but the data they were getting wasn't good. And based on what they were getting, they probably should have asked me about it because they were getting a lot of just putting NAs, like it's not available, like the data we were looking for, which is like it's okay if you get like a handful of those, but like 90% of their people they had called had given these NA answers. So like our data wasn't data at all, and so that made a big issue. So I'd say those things would make it
Okay.
very hard to have a successful project in the end.
All right, got it. Thanks. And the last question is, you gave suggestions before, but this question says suggestions for business. How do you pronounce this? Etiquette,
What was it? Business what?
etiquette,
Etiquette.
etiquette, and protocol, like cocktail parties, business recreation, etc.
Never been to a cocktail party, so I can't give you that one. Well, I'd say like when you're working with clients, and I can talk about that. You need to respect their time. Would be like one of the big etiquettes for it. So and there's like a level of professionalism that's expected that a lot of the interns learn in the internship. So like a couple examples of that would be sending an agenda a day in advance so that the client can look it over as opposed to emailing it to them 20 minutes before the meeting. That's one. If you're doing like a conference call, put the conference call number and the pin number in the Google calendar event. That way you don't have to be emailing them 5 minutes before the event. Everyone knows where it is. Labeling your calendar events, so don't just say meeting because no one knows what the heck that is. When I have 10 events on my calendar that all say meeting, I don't know what I'm doing. So like putting like your project name, first consultation, something along those lines. as well as like just being professional in emails. Like you say, hello, so and so, comma, space, or comma, new paragraph, say, thanking them for their time, or sending them notes about the meeting to so that they have those. Asking for permission if you're going to record a phone call, don't just record it. It all comes down to a lot of little things. Etiquette's a bunch of little things. There's not really one big thing in etiquette, unless you just don't be a jerk or an idiot, I guess. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say those are probably some of the more important ones at least from my experience.
Thanks so much. Everything was really, really valuable for me. I really appreciate, I called you just today in the morning. Well, I just contacted you today in the morning and you gave me this chance to talk to you today. I appreciate that a lot. And well, that's basically what I wanted to cover with you. And thanks again.
Yeah, no problem. Let me know if you have any other questions because I'm more than happy to answer them. So,
Thank you. I appreciate it. I wish you a good weekend with you and your family.
well, thanks. You as well. Good luck with your Halloween party.
Thank you so much.
All
I'll
right,
see you.
thanks.
Bye.